So, by the time you watch this, you probably already know over this past, couple of days and this Labor Day weekend that it was announced, and I have the article, one of the articles anyway, here. We basically, Friday, yesterday, it was announced by, in agreement by all the conference commissioners and the athletic director at Notre Dame, that basically the NCAA FBS will be expanding its college football brackets from 4 to 12. That's right, from 4 to 12. And what that means basically is, from what I understand, and they showed a little bit of an example of what it would look like had this been implemented last year. The top four seeds in the playoffs, in the college football playoff rankings, in the AP and all that, those teams would get buys. In other words, they would automatically go to whatever bowl games are hosting the CFP that year. Well, the other 12 schools, or the other 8 schools, I should say, would be facing each other in first round matches, or basically quarterfinal matches, if you will. So in other words, even if you're a conference champion, but you're like ranked 5th and 6th, you would basically, be in the first round against whoever the lower seeds are. So in other words, in the first round, you'd be like the number 1 seed, even though the actual number 1 seed has a bye. But you would be like the top tier seed in the first round to get to that next round against that top higher seed, if that makes any sense. And there, but that's basically what it is. That's basically how it is. And we have one right here at CBS Sports has it. The headline is "College Football Expansion: How a 12-team field would have looked in each of the last 8 seasons." So in other words, they kind of give an example here. So they go right off the bat. Here they say that the top-ranked conference champions, of course, like I said, that plays an integral part, would have had buys, which are the top 4. Last year, and this is what, like I said, ESPN used as an example, Alabama, Michigan, and Cincinnati, and Baylor would have had buys last year had this been implemented then. And then, of course, the rest of the field would be Georgia, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Ole Miss, Oklahoma State, Michigan State, Utah, and Pittsburgh. And Utah and Pittsburgh would be the only conference champion, would have been, I should say, the only conference champions in those brackets, in those quarterfinals. And this is how it would have lined up, basically. You would have had Pittsburgh taking on Georgia, number 12 Pittsburgh and number 5 Georgia, because that's how they were ranked. Number 11 Utah taking on number 6 Notre Dame. Number 10 Michigan State taking on Ohio State. And number 9 Oklahoma against number 8 Ole Miss. And this is how it would have played out. The Pittsburgh Georgia winner would have faced Baylor, because Baylor's 4. Utah Notre Dame winner would have faced Cincinnati, because Cincinnati's 3. Michigan State Ohio State winner would have faced Michigan, because Michigan's number 2. And Oklahoma State Ole Miss winner would have faced Alabama. That's basically how it would have worked. Essentially, that's how it would have worked to a degree. And then they even go further to the 2020 season, and they basically say that Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State and Oklahoma would have been the buys in 2020, while the rest of the field would have consisted of Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Florida, Cincinnati, Georgia, Iowa State, Indiana, and Coastal Carolina. And then this is how it would have ranked up in the 2020 season. They say in the 2020 season, it would have been like this. It would have been number 12 Coastal Carolina against Notre Dame. Winner would have faced number 4 Oklahoma. Number 11 Indiana taking on number 6 Texas A&M. Winner would have faced number 3 Ohio State. And then here it says Iowa State, Florida would have faced each other. The winner would have faced Clemson. And then, of course, Georgia, Cincinnati winner would have faced Alabama. And then, of course, you go from there. And those, again, would have been the bowl games. Those would have been the bowl games. And then they go further. They go further down. They go to 2019 season. They say that since LSU, Ohio State, and Clemson and Oklahoma would have been the byes, the rest of the field would have consisted of Georgia, Oregon, Baylor, Wisconsin, Florida, Penn State, Utah, and Memphis. And then this is how they said it would have gone. They said basically Memphis, Georgia winner would have faced Oklahoma, Utah, Oregon winner would have faced Clemson, Penn State, Baylor winner would have faced Ohio State, Florida, Wisconsin winner would have faced LSU. So on and so forth. And then of course you have 2018, same thing, and all that, pretty much the same players almost, with a few differences thrown in there, so on and so forth. So in other words, not only does like the quarterfinals, if you will, the quarterfinals consist of who the highest ranked is, even if you're a champion, the person, or not person, but the team with the higher rank would host the game. So for example, we look at the 2017 season and how it would have looked under this new playoff format. And basically UFC, they were ranked, not UFC, but UCF, I should say, Central Florida, UCF, they were ranked number 12, and they were a champion, but Alabama, even though they weren't a champion, were ranked higher, so UCF would have gone to Alabama. Excuse me. The same with Washington. Washington, I think, wasn't at large. They were ranked number 11, but they would have had to travel to Wisconsin and face the Badgers. Same with Miami and Auburn. Both are not champions, but because Auburn was ranked higher than Miami would have gone to Auburn, and then Penn State would have gone to USC. Penn State would have gone to USC, because not just of the ranking, not just because USC is a champion, but because of the ranking as well. So the one thing people would disagree with, especially in support of their team and the conference their team is a part of, is the fact that basically, even if your team's a champion, it doesn't guarantee you're going to host the game unless you're on a higher rank. If somebody is ranked higher than you and they're not a champion, but you are, then you have to, depending on how it works out, you will face that person on their home field with the opportunity to advance to whatever bowl game will be hosting the college football playoffs. And again, they give more examples, like in 2016 you had Alabama, Clemson, Washington, and Penn State. They would have been your top ranked conference champions and byes, and the rest of the field would have consisted of Ohio State, Michigan, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, USC, Colorado, Florida State, and Western Michigan. And then this is how it would have worked. Western Michigan, because they were ranked 12, would go to Ohio State, even though Ohio State wasn't champion, and the winner would have faced Penn State. Florida State, even though they weren't a champion, neither was Michigan, but Michigan was ranked higher, would have gone to Michigan. Colorado, they were ranked number 10, even though they're not the champions of the Pac-12 at that time, would have gone to Oklahoma. And again, Oklahoma kind of falls into what I mentioned just moments ago. They kind of fell into, or would have fallen into, had this been implemented then, they would have fallen into the rare category of not just being ranked higher, but also being a champion. And then you have USC at number 9. They would have had to go to Wisconsin. And again, Western Michigan, Ohio State winner would have faced Penn State. Florida State, Michigan winner would have faced Washington. Colorado, Oklahoma winner would have faced Clemson. USC winner, Wisconsin winner would have faced Alabama, and so on. You kind of get the idea, guys. You kind of get the idea. If you catch my drift, you kind of get the idea. I mean, even here when they look at the 2015 season, Clemson, Alabama, Michigan State, Oklahoma, and the rest of the field was Iowa, Stanford, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Florida State, North Carolina, TCU, and Houston. Now, Houston ranked at number 12, even though they were a conference champion. Because Iowa was ranked at number 5, Houston would have had to go to Iowa. Plain and simple. And again, Stanford, ranked number 6, higher than TCU, who was ranked at 11 in 2015. Stanford again falls into that rare category of being champion and ranked, in a high seed. North Carolina would have had to face Ohio State, there's no doubt, and Florida State would have had to face Notre Dame. And this is how it would have played out. Houston, Iowa winner would have gone to Oklahoma, would have faced Oklahoma. TCU, Stanford winner would have faced Michigan State. North Carolina, Ohio State winner against Alabama. Florida State, Notre Dame winner against Clemson. End of story. Pretty much, saying that, hey, pretty much saying that, if this new format was in play many seasons ago, this is how it would have worked out depending on, the teams involved. So, for example, 2014, you have Alabama, Oregon, Florida State, and Ohio State that would have gotten the bye because they're the top-ranked conference champions. The rest of the field would have consisted of Baylor, TCU, Mississippi State, Michigan State, Ole Miss, Arizona, Kansas State, Boise State. Now, here's the thing. Baylor and Boise State were the champions, were conference champions in the rest of those brackets. But because of the fact that, Baylor was ranked higher than Boise State, Boise State would have had to go to Baylor, and that not only would have been a unique case again of the conference champion being ranked higher, but also a rare case of both conference champions colliding in that quarterfinal. And then, of course, you would have had Kansas State go to TCU, Arizona go to Mississippi State, Ole Miss against Michigan, and this is how it would have played out. Boise State Baylor winner would have faced Ohio State. Kansas State TCU winner would have faced Florida State. Arizona Mississippi State winner would have faced Oregon. Ole Miss Michigan State winner would have faced Alabama, and so on. So you kind of get the idea that basically, once this new playoff system comes into being within the next couple of years, whether it's in the next 2 years, the next 4 years, depending on how it comes into being, it's going to be really interesting because, again, the one niche, the one knock against it that I think a lot of people are going to have, honestly, is the fact that basically, their school that's part of the conference, they might have a great win-loss record, but if they're not ranked at a certain position and another team is, mainly based on name value, that team's going to get in. End of story. That team gets in, end of story. So yeah, it is kind of complicated and weird to look at, and maybe it's going to take time to get used to. But I look at the fact that this will be interesting because it's similar to what the FCS does, but the only difference is the schools that win that quarterfinal to go to the semifinals to face the top 4 teams. What they're also doing is not only, vying for a national championship, but vying to go to a higher ranked bowl game. Now, I don't know what that would do with the other schools, if that just means no bowl game for them or whatever. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Maybe they might get something. I don't know. It'll be nice for them to get some kind of constellation of, hey, you didn't win this game to get to the next round, but guess what? We'll give you this. So hopefully they'll get something in return. But yeah, I'm kind of intrigued by it. again, I think, again, like I said, the only criticism I think a lot of people will have is, support for the school and the conference, and whether or not it's fair that, or unfair that they're, that their team, having a better record, but in everything and being a conference champion, has to possibly, depending on the ranking, be regulated to being the visiting team against a school that may not be a champion but is ranked higher. So it may not have the best record either, that like what they have, but we'll see. We'll see what they do. But what do you guys think of this? What are your thoughts about this announcement on this Labor Day weekend? How do you feel about it? Do you think there are some things that still need to be worked out, maybe fixed to make it better? And do you expect it to either show up in 2024 or 2026? What are your thoughts down below? Comment if you like. I got to get ready for work, guys. And until then, talk to y'all later.